Hi, my name is Dorit Wagner and I'm from Irkutsk, Russia. Behind me, as you can see, is the oldest functioning synagogue in Russia. This is it. This year we celebrate the 140th anniversary of this shul. Actually, the community here dates 200 years. Last year we celebrated the 200th anniversary of the community. The community is made up of all different people. There are some whose ancestors were merchants, some who were Cantonists. Others came here during the Soviet time. Today, our shul is a center for Judaism, meaning anybody who has any age who needs any Jewish service, they can always come here. We have Torah shiurim during the entire week. We have a kindergarten that has 35 Jewish children. There are minyanim on Shabbos during the week. There's kosher food available. We celebrate all the holidays, and basically it's the home for every Jew here in Irkutsk, Siberia.
Panama. And Fredel, tell us a little bit about life in Panama.
Okay, so people are very surprised to hear that there's a very big Jewish community in Panama, because they say, what, there's Jews in Panama? And yes, there's about 15,000 Jews.
Wow.
And there's mainly a Sephardic community. We're in the Ashkenazi community. And most Jews in Panama are very traditional and they're affiliated with an Orthodox synagogue. About 95% of kids go to Jewish day schools.
Wow.
And
how many Jews do you have?
15,000. So there's three, full Jewish day schools and two big kosher supermarkets, which people are very surprised about. And there's a few kosher restaurants. And in general, there's like a really nice Jewish life. And people live very close-knit. And it's very different to America in that sense. Like on Friday night, we come to shul and you feel like you're almost in Israel.
Wow.
With people walking down the street and a really nice environment of, just a very nice close-knit Jewish community.
That is beautiful. How long do you live there?
I am there 26 years.
Actually feel like you have a lot of anti-Semitism where you live?
No, not in a very open way. There is obviously anti-Semitism, but the Jewish community lives very comfortably, and in general, thank God, there's not many
problems. We're coming to visit.
Okay, waiting for you.
My husband is a married couple with my baby 25 years ago, and shortly after we moved there, Chavez, which I'm sure Bassi's friends are very cultured, you know that Chavez was radical socialist president who took the country downhill. We went from a community of over 25,000 Jews. Today, unfortunately, we're less than 5,000. And Caracas is a wonderful community. The Jewish community is amazing, what's left of it. I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. But Caracas is what I call like the country of never a dull moment and of changes. Every 3 months, it's a different country with a different set of rules. Venezuelans are adept at adapting to new situations. For example, you might have heard 2 years ago there was terrible protests, and so schools were canceled for weeks at a time. The Chabad school adapted by going online for that time. Then Baruch Hashem, that was over with, and then there was shortages of medicine and food. Thank God, I do have to say. What? Wait, we're not up to there. There was shortages of food and medicines. Thank God. The Jewish community, I'm not going to say was not affected. We're obviously affected. You live in that country. But somehow we live in a bubble where we help each other. We have medicines. If somebody didn't have a medicine within 1 hour within the chat, you had it in your house delivered. Most like nothing. It really didn't affect us, except more the people around us. The 90% of the country really was struggling. Thank God now we do have medicines, we do have food all over the country. It's not a problem anymore, but now the prices are extremely high, so the poor people are still having a hard time getting it, but thank God within the community you could afford it. It's not a problem. It's just American standard prices, which for Venezuela is crazy because we are extremely hyperinflated economically. We are the #1 country hyperinflated in the world in the history. 8 zeros were slashed of off of our currency. And just to give you an example, when I was growing up in Caracas, Venezuela, that each dollar was worth 4 bolivares. Now it's 76,000 plus 8 zeros.
Wow.
So we're talking about crazy, crazy hyperinflation. But the Jewish community is well adjusted, and we help the people around us as much as we can. People are going around, taking food out of the garbage. The other day, my freezer went bad, and I had to throw out tons of meat and fish and cheeses, and I put them outside in the garbage dumpster, and within 5 minutes it wasn't there anymore. I'm very sad to think that somebody was very excited to find it. So it is a very sad situation, and we try to help the people around us as much as we can. Then we had also very strong problems of water and electricity. We had a very horrible blackout, but we resolve it. So
How
now
long did that blackout last?
that blackout lasted 3 days.
Wow.
It was 72 straight hours. 72 is 3 days, something like that. I don't remember anymore. And then the problem was it continued in the sense that 2 days later it went away for an hour, and then 2 days later it went away for 12 hours, and then 2 days later it went away for half an hour, and then for 5 minutes, and then for 48 hours. So it's till today, this was a long time ago, but till today the light still goes away. Like this week it went away for 5 minutes one day. But most homes and apartment buildings and synagogues put generators. So when the light went off in my house last week for 5 minutes, the generator went on. So it doesn't affect me, but the country is really terribly affected. And because the water gets generated by the electricity, so we also have water problems. But thank God, I do have to say that there's been days where, yes, one time I had to go to a friend's house, and in her area there was water, and I made a load of laundry because I was really out of clothing. But that only happened once. Most of the time we're able to adapt. In terms of safety and security, which many people have that question, we did go a few years back with a very rough patch of kidnappings. They were called express kidnappings because they just wanted money, and they'd give the person back very quickly. Very quickly, sometimes was a few days. But thank God, I could say that in the past 3-4 years, we've been perfectly safe in that sense. But people have toned down a lot. They're going out at night because there's still that post
Fear,
trauma. Yeah.
Wow.
But in general, we have a wonderful, warm, happy community with happy schools. We have kosher eateries. We have pizza store. We have bakeries. We have kosher restaurants. We have
Hi, tell us your name and where
My
do you
name
live.
is Hannah
Let's see your
Saradana.
badge.
I live in Leeds, England. I run a campus Chabad house. After living 12 years in Sweden, we moved to
Wow.
Leeds 13 years ago. We live on campus with thousands of...
Hello.
Hi, I'm from Odessa in Ukraine.
How is Jewish life in Odessa?
Very good for Jewish. We have school, university, synagogue,
Wow.
all for Jewish life.
Wow.
Arlig. I live in Las Vegas. You are all welcome to visit me and have a great time. I tell you that there are lots of Jews, just like you, where we're connected to you all over the world, where we have a Chabad house and they come. We have Hebrew school. You don't feel like you're on the Strip, which is all hotels, fancy hotels, and now 17 different Chabad families that run different programs, and lots of different shows and tons of Jewish people.
This is my first year at the Kinnos. I got married about a year ago. I'm 21, and we just had a baby 3 months ago. We're here, sleeping, and we just moved about a month ago to Kovna, Lithuania, which is a city in Lithuania. What's the name of the city again? Kovna. So Kovna is the Yiddish, what was called before the war in Yiddish. Now it's called Kaunas. That's the Lithuanian.
Tell us a little bit of the Jewish history of Kaunas. Kovna is shown to be rich, incredibly rich Jewish history.
Yes, and before the war, there was, they say, 35,000 Jews there. There was over 60 synagogues, tons of schools. Unfortunately, most of it isn't there anymore. Most was destroyed during the war, unfortunately. Now there's about altogether 1,000 Jews there. There's locals, there's a big medical school for students, there's tourists, there's now a lot of business opportunities opening up there, and it's a growing city.
Do you meet a lot of people who have been there for like many, many years, or are most of the people moved there in the last 100 years? Let's say since the war ended.
So there are people survivors that have been this 90-year-olds that they remember growing up as a child, and now they still live there.
Wow. Incredible. So what do you look forward to in your future? You just moved a month ago, but what are your plans, or what's your vision or goal for life over there?
We hope to create a thriving Jewish community just like it was before the war. Kovno was known as a very thriving community, and we hope to bring it back.
Hi. Hi. This is Miri, sitting right behind me on the bus, and this is her sister, Mushka, who lives in Haifa, by the French mountain, you said? Oh, okay. And this is another sister who lives in Mirla in Kfar Chabad, Israel. Beautiful. Miri lives in, how do you even pronounce that? Ukraine. Wow, Miri. What is life like in Ukraine? How long are you there?
13 years.
13 years. Wow.
Maya Epstein from Chicago.
Wow, so can you tell us a little bit about Jewish life in Chicago? Like how many synagogues are there, Jewish schools?
Well, it depends on what part of Chicago you're talking about, but there are a few Jewish communities in Chicago that have many shows, actually, like probably over 10 shows, and there's different schools, Chabad schools, not Chabad schools, and then there's suburbs that have many Chabad houses, Baruch Hashem, over 40 Chabad centers in the Chicagoland area, which is Chicago, and like different suburbs all over the state, some closer, some a little bit further. Well, unfortunately, what I hear is Hamas has its largest center outside of the Middle East in Chicago. There's a lot of Arabs in Chicago. Thank God. There's been some incidents, just like there has been all over the world, but like it doesn't feel unsafe, or like there's more going on, Baruch Hashem. We feel God's protecting us, they've been protecting us. Unfortunately, the shuls have all, we all have guards now. We all have, just like everywhere else in the world, is kind of
unfortunately,
pushing things up a little bit. But I think Baruch Hashem, we feel pretty safe. Yeah, 100%.
And what do you think about, how is it to be Jewish? Is it, do you feel like Jewish pride? Is it easy to be Jewish in Chicago?
The truth is, in a lot of ways, the Ashlichus in Chicago is a little bit of, it's easy because there is chinuch there are kosher food, there's mikvahs, there's lots of opportunities to do mitzvahs easily. So it's like a treat in that way,
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. What's your name and where do you live?
Hi, I'm Basi Marcus. We live in Mission Viejo, California, which is Southern California.
Okay. How many Jews are there?
We have about 3,000 Jews in our city.
What's the Jewish situation like? Are there synagogues? How does it?
We live where there's one Reform temple in our area, and the Conservative temple actually closed down a few years ago, and they merged with the Reform temple, so they're both in the same building now because they couldn't afford it. Life got really expensive where we live, and then there's us. Right? That's the closest Jewish day school, and so it takes about 2 hours every day just to take them to school.
Scream?
Hi, Kayla.
I'll have to scream now.
Can you tell us where you're from and a little bit about your country?
Sure. So I'm from Pittsburgh, just like Rachel. And for the last 11 years, I've been in Rostov, Russia, with my husband and family. It's a community of about 10,000 people. We run a synagogue that's a very ancient synagogue. It's 150 years old. It's called the Cantonist Synagogue. And it was built by Cantonists. These are Jewish boys who were taken away from their families at the age of 5, 6, and 7. They were brought up in the Russian army, And when they came back about 25 years later, they wanted to feel like part of the community, but they didn't have a place. So they themselves built this gorgeous shul, a gorgeous synagogue, and all of the other synagogues in our city were destroyed during the Holocaust or during communism, and this is the one remaining shul. So this is the one that we have now, and it's beautiful that our community has really, really grown so much over, through communism. It was, of course, nobody came to shul, and now it's really growing again.
Do you have a Jewish school?
We have a Jewish school we have a preschool.
How many Jewish schools are there in Rostov?
There's one Jewish school and a preschool, and it goes all the way up to 11th grade where they graduate from. This year we have about 80, 90 kids in school, and yeah, it's called Or Avner Day School, and it's very high education.
Do you feel anti-Semitism?
Personally, I've never had any incidents in the past 11 years.
Do you have security?
We do. We have a guard who stays there all the time, 24/7. He lives and sleeps, they switch. So we do have a little bit of security in the shul and the school. But yeah, we don't have like any metal detectors or anything, but
beautiful. Thank you, Kayla.
You're very welcome.
Bratislava, Slovakia, as in Amslichus. We've been there for 27 years, and it is a post-Holocaust, post-communist country with a community that is warm and intelligent and friendly, and we haven't scared them off yet. And I love them, and I happen to love your shlucha. So we love Rachel.
Can you tell us a little bit, how many synagogues are there?
There is one synagogue that has survived the war.
Wow, how old is it?
It is, I think, 80 years old, 85 years old, something like that.
Okay, can you give us a little bit of insight into Jewish history in Bratislava?
Yeah, it's the city most well known for the Chassam Sofer, the great rabbi who fought against assimilation. He's still buried there. Obviously, he hasn't moved. The Hungarian Empire.
Thank you very much. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the demographics is? There like younger, older people, families?
The Jewish community there is made up mostly of Holocaust survivors and their children and grandchildren. When we first came, it was predominantly, I would say, only elderly. And thank God through our programs over the years, we have been successful in bringing out and getting together also a small variety of young people also.
How many Jews are there?
Officially 1,000 individuals. Nobody knows of that many, but it's a very believable number because every single Jew in the city knows of other Jews who don't affiliate Jewishly, who don't know they're Jewish. So even after all these years, we're still discovering more Jews. The number we know about is around 500.
Do you feel there's anti-Semitism?
Yes and no. On one hand, in Europe, everybody wishes that all the Jews would leave yesterday. But Slovakia is actually the only country in all of Europe where it is against the law to build a mosque. So they don't like a lot of change. And the general population, every stereotype that has ever existed about Jews exists very fully. The Jews have all the money, the Jews control everything. But they're friendly, they're intelligent, and if a person has self-respect, they're generally very respectful.
Hi, Rachel.
Can you tell us a little bit about Jewish life in Oxford?
Oxford is a beautiful city. It's adults Disneyland with dreaming spires and medieval alleyways. We have between 500 and 1,000 Jewish students. We also have 121 libraries, which include a lot of valuable Jewish manuscripts, including Mystery Torah of the Rambam with his own signature, authorizing it, and a lot of other fascinating texts, which show a lot of interesting discussions relevant to Jewish law today. So Jews lived in Oxford in medieval times. They were kicked out in 1290, but before that they lived in the city center. They had a graveyard, they had a shul, they had a mikveh. There was some interesting discussions. There was one guy who didn't have any children, and he decided he wanted to divorce his wife. But his wife got the rabbis to say that he can't divorce her. So this guy went to the king instead. Now the rabbis were in France. And the king said, the Jews in England are not under the jurisdiction of the rabbis in France. Dun, 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 dun. That's one story.
Okay, thank you.
There was also a guy called Robert of Reading who converted to Judaism to marry a Jewish woman, and they burnt him to death. So we have some gory Jewish history, but fortunately they don't do that anymore.
Can you tell us about today? Do you feel anti-Semitism?
Not really. Baruch Hashem. We are very happy. We have lovely neighbors. Everybody is pretty happy to live together in harmony.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Brady.
Hi, I'm Bethany Pinson, and I'm a shlucha in downtown Brooklyn, which is close to Crown Heights, but a whole other world, and we're a very young, artistic community. We do a lot of adult education, and I wrote a book on challah, and I travel around the world teaching all the communities about challah. I haven't come to Denmark yet, but I would love to. And I wrote a cookbook on challah, and I teach about challah, and that's also part of our shlucha.
Hi, Chani. Can you tell us where you live?
Hello, Chani Baram here. I live in Philadelphia, second generation shlucha. I live in the city of Philadelphia, like in the downtown section. We run a program called the Friendship Circle. That's our shlichus. We pair local teenagers with kids with special needs to develop a community and friendships with each other. We celebrate Jewish holidays together, and we don't see the teenagers as kind of a means to an end, but really bringing together different people who might not have a chance to meet each other and be a part of a Jewish community together. A lot of kids with special needs are not able to be a part of their Jewish community. Often people feel very isolated from the Jewish community, and this is a place where people feel comfortable and feel celebrated to be whoever they are. And teenagers as well. A lot of teenagers nowadays don't feel connected as much, and this is a place that they really feel like they make a difference and they're really important.
Beautiful. My name is Toralea Heiningsfeld, and we live in Moore Park, California. Yeah, we share it with horses. We live on a 5.5 acre ranch, and we converted our barn into a shul. And we live on the same property with 5 horses, a pony, like 20 goats and sheep. We have lots of chickens.
I'm Carl Pesner, and I'm from the Cayman Islands.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about the islands?
Oh, what do you want to know? It is an island in the Caribbean, and it's a lot of good diving and snorkeling there. In terms of the Jewish community, we are like a small version of everything that happens everywhere else. So we have a little Hebrew school, a little teen club, a little, some seniors, a little this, a little that, preschool. Never knew they were Jewish. Actually, getting their DNA done or know that they have this ancestor because they came through from Spain in 1492 with the expulsion to Jamaica, through Jamaica to Cayman.
Amazing, wow. And so it works? So you're building Jewish continuity.
We hope so.
Cayman Island is very lucky.